So I've been thinking about episode 10. Um, After I recorded it, I I didn't I didn't like it. I didn't listen to it. I didn't have to. I haven't listened to it yet, but I didn't like how frenetic I felt. The Game of Thrones bit, it was fine. I mean, I really was super excited about this show coming back, and having watched episode 1 of season 8, I can say that I'm even more excited now for the next 5 episodes. And that's all I'll say about that episode. But I think through the whole thing, I thought, as I reviewed in my mind the whole thing, I thought, it's just kind of a bit of a mess. And talking about what I believe, it felt, I don't know, I didn't like it. And I discussed the matter with my producer, who sometimes acts as quality control as well. And I said, man, if it's just unlistenable, just tell me. And he said, no, that wasn't the case. He said, I could tell you were a little excited, and it felt like he was being kind in saying it just that way. But as I thought about it, I thought about all the things that you and I have probably heard about how, like, if you do a thing, so any creative endeavor, or really maybe anything, but anything where I guess it is, where you're making something or it's for consumption, that there are those moments when you just sort of do what you do and then it's done and you move on to the next, bit. I think there's that whole bit. Is it Ira Glass? Is that right? Who talks about, you keep making and it keeps getting better, and et cetera, et cetera. So I guess you don't need me to rehash all those things, but I just want to say that that felt like one of those moments for me that it didn't feel like my quote unquote best work. I don't even know what that means in this context. I don't know what a good episode in this podcast looks like, but it did feel like that was a bad one. And it felt like it was important to leave it there because the reality is our lives are not as curated as our feeds, right? Our lives are our lives. Some days are good, some days are bad, some days we're frenetic, some days we're lethargic, some days are up, some days are down, all that stuff. So you know all this, but if it's helpful tonight or today to hear it again, whatever it is you're doing, it won't always be as good as you want. That does not mean it's not good, or it doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. Because that thing, that moment, that bad day of writing, or that that thing you did that isn't as good as the time you did it before, it's still part of the journey towards what it will be, right? And so for me, at least up until this point, episode 10 it's just part of what brought me to episode 11. So, but I am sorry, that was kind of all over the place. My name's Steven, and this is Get Tucked, a Don't Trust This Man podcast. Traveled for work today. I drove about 4 hours up to a meeting and 4 hours back. I'm a little tired, which helps with the not being overly, I guess, frenetic, as I was saying earlier. On the highway, past a billboard that I think it said marriage is between one man and one woman, and had a billboard-sized picture of 2 wedding bands. And I just thought, what's the point? I don't want to talk tonight about theologically informed or misinformed views on human sexuality too much. What I got me thinking about is why. I believe there was a scripture passage, but for better or for worse, my assumption was that billboard was paid for or sponsored by some faith group. And in our country, that's their right, and I love that that's possible, and I'm grateful that people who feel that way can, I guess, advertise their beliefs. That's part of what I think freedom of speech means. But it got me thinking about why Christians would care what anybody else does as it pertains to marriage. I just don't understand it. Talking about what someone else should do as it pertains to their love / romantic / wedded life. It makes no sense to me in terms of a witness for the gospel. irrespective of what I think or believe about who should or shouldn't be able to marry whom, I'm just confused as to why anybody, Christian or otherwise, cares what anybody else does. As it pertains to the good news of Jesus the Christ, I would submit that the very best witness one can provide, if one is married or romantically inclined towards another, the best witness would be to practice fidelity and to be a servant in the context of that relationship. Right? If you take Jesus seriously, that's kind of what he shows us. He shows us faithfulness, steadfastness of love, as it were. And he shows us what it is to set aside our rights and serve another, to serve and to serve the other. And in the context of a marriage or a committed relationship, the other is your partner, your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it may be. And it feels to me like that's the best witness for marriage, if you want, or fidelity or whatever. And it's also the best witness for the power of the gospel, because remaining faithful and servant-minded towards someone else for whatever the rest of your life looks like, that's really, 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 really hard. It's really hard to do. And just being committed to that day in and day out, that, to borrow a phrase from Eugene Peterson and to take it, I'm sure, wildly out of the context he meant, that's a long obedience in the same direction. And that says more, I think, for the power of what God can do and what God's love can do than some ridiculous billboard about what genders should or should not be involved in marriage. For God's sake. Because when that happens, the point isn't to protect marriage, the point is to be right. And the point is to beat the rest of the world into submission and to say, oh, no, you're right, we should pass, and then to pass laws that protect it. It's ridiculous. If you think marriage is so wonderful between a man and a woman, then if you're a man married to a woman, be faithful and serve her. Do that. You can't put that on a billboard, though, can you? Can't raise money for that, can you? That'd be funny, wouldn't it, to do a GoFundMe, and it's just, I'm just married. I need some money because I'm married. That wouldn't work. Anyway, I suppose that's enough of that for tonight. If you are in fact involved in a committed relationship, irrespective of the genders present, the way, irrespective of how either partner may identify, if you're involved in a committed relationship, may I just encourage you to stay committed, to keep serving, right? May you find renewed energy to look for ways to prefer the other over yourself. May their joy be your joy. Because the thing about it is, right, if the other is doing the same, then you have this beautiful, place of, I guess it'd be reciprocity, right? You have this sort of virtuous cycle of love and service one to another that is not always it's not idyllic or fairy tale. Sometimes it's really, really, really hard. But if that's the goal, if that's the motivation, or that's the pursuit, I think it does, in fact, ultimately make each other, it makes each of you, each of the two, better. And I think it actually makes the world just a little bit better. Way better than some just asinine billboard on the side of the highway in middle America. Psalm 71, verses 1 through 14. In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness deliver me and rescue me. Incline your ear to me and save me. Be to me a rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. Rescue me, O my God, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasp of the unjust and cruel. For you, O Lord, are my hope, my trust, O Lord, from my youth. Upon you I have leaned from my birth. It was you who took me from my mother's womb. My praise is continually of you. I have been like a portent to many, but you are my strong refuge. My mouth is filled with your praise and with your glory all day long. Do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. For my enemies speak concerning me, and those who watch for my life consult together. They say, pursue and seize that person whom God has forsaken, for there is no one to deliver. O God, do not be far from me. O my God, make haste to help me. Let my accusers be put to shame and consumed. Let those who seek to hurt me be covered with scorn and disgrace. But I will hope continually and will praise you yet more and more. May you tonight know that God is eternally faithful to you. And in a way that is difficult to explain, we see in Jesus that he came to serve you, to care for you. In my opinion, the great promise of the gospel is you are loved unchangeably, tirelessly, no matter what kind of day you had, no matter how good or bad episode 10 was or wasn't, no matter how the book's coming, no matter how your kids make you feel, no matter what your partner has or has not done for you over the past week or two, no matter what you said at work today, or no matter how much money you have in the bank, no matter, you are loved. And I pray that as we go through this life, you would begin and continue to believe that more and more. And I pray that tonight you would have peaceful rest and sweet dreams.